Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the boat. Grab yourself a coffee or a cold one and settle in because today we're getting into something every solo sailor knows deep down but doesn't always talk about. You see, when you tell folks you're sailing alone, they usually picture freedom, sunsets, and peaceful seas. And yeah, there's a lot of that. But there's also a whole side of solo sailing that sneaks up on you. Stuff that no handbook or YouTube video can really prepare you for. So in this video, I'm sharing 10 unexpected challenges of solo sailing. These aren't the obvious things like bad weather or engine failures. We all expect those. These are the quieter, trickier, more personal struggles that tend to hit you when you're out there with nothing but the wind, the waves, and your own thoughts for company. I've been living this life for a while now, and trust me, these are the things that have really tested me, not just as a sailor, but as a person. Let's dive in. One of the most unexpected things about solo sailing is the sheer mental weight of being the only decision maker on board. Every single choice, big or small, is yours alone. There's no one to ask, "What do you think?" or to debate the options with. Should I reef now or wait it out? Is that cloud formation a threat or just passing fluff? What's the best course to avoid that squall without losing too much time? It doesn't stop. Even when you're at anchor, you're constantly checking weather forecasts, planning your next move, monitoring battery levels, or just deciding what to eat. It's like running a one-person operation with no time off. Over time, it wears you down in ways you don't expect. You might find yourself second-guessing every little thing. I've had days where I couldn't even choose between coffee or tea because my brain felt fried from too many tactical calls earlier. And it's not just the fatigue, it's the pressure. Knowing there's no one else to blame or lean on means you're always mentally on. That kind of constant vigilance chips away at your energy, and learning how to rest your mind becomes just as important as trimming your sails. Sleep becomes a luxury when you're sailing solo, and not always in the way you'd expect. At anchor, it's hard to really relax. Every little sound, the wind shifting, a wave slapping the hull, the anchor chain grinding against the bow roller jolts you awake, and the thoughts start swirling. Am I dragging? Is that other boat too close? What's the wind doing now? It's a kind of low-level anxiety that keeps your mind half awake even when your body's exhausted. Now, offshore or on passage, it's a different challenge. You can't just close your eyes and drift off. You've got to nap in short bursts, maybe 20 minutes if you're lucky, waking up to scan the horizon, check your heading, adjust sails. It's not restful, it's fragmented, light, and often disturbed by worry or adrenaline. There were nights I felt more wrecked after trying to sleep than I did before, and when you're that tired, everything feels harder. Decision-making, physical tasks, even just staying positive. I've tried all kinds of tricks, earplugs, anchor alarms, timers, but the truth is, sleep on a solo boat is something you fight for, not something that just happens. It's one of the quiet battles of this lifestyle, and it never really goes away. One of the strangest experiences I've had out there is feeling deeply alone while anchored in absolute paradise. Picture this: turquoise water, a gentle breeze, palm trees lining a deserted shore. It's postcard perfect, but something's missing, and that something is connection. It's a strange feeling when you realize you're living a dream, but there's no one to share it with, no one to laugh with over a morning coffee, or to share a quiet sunset with. You take 1,000 photos, sure, but it's not the same. Sometimes I'll catch myself talking to the boat or narrating what I'm doing just to hear a voice. You learn to enjoy solitude, but you also become keenly aware of how much we need other people, not just for help or safety, but for the little shared moments. And those moments don't come easy when you're always on the move. Always the stranger pulling into port. Even a quick chat with a fellow sailor on the dock can lift your spirits more than you'd expect. So yeah, solo sailing brings peace, but it can also bring a kind of quiet ache. And no amount of stunning scenery can fully cover that up. If you've ever tried to fix something with one hand while holding a flashlight in your teeth and bracing yourself against a rolling hull, you've had a taste of solo boat repairs. It's part of the gig. Boats break, and when you're solo, every fix becomes a one-person show. There's no one to pass you a wrench, no one to hold the other end of a pipe, or even just offer a second set of eyes. I've had to get real creative with bungee cords, zip ties, and anything else I could use to rig up a third hand. I remember once trying to change an impeller in a cramped engine bay, arms twisted like a pretzel, with sweat pouring off my face, not from heat, but pure frustration. And sometimes it's not even about skill, it's about the logistics. Getting tools out, putting them away, cleaning up, every step takes twice as long. There's no hand me that or hold this a sec. You end up leaving things half-finished just to rest your arms or clear your head. But at the end of the day, when you finally get it fixed and everything's working again, there's a special kind of pride in knowing you did it all yourself. Pulling into a crowded marina or harbor solo is one of the most stressful moments you'll face as a single-handed sailor. You're juggling a million things at once, checking charts, monitoring traffic, keeping an eye on your speed, adjusting course, calling the harbor master, all while steering and preparing lines and fenders. I've had heart-pounding entries where ferries were zipping past, fishing boats weaving between buoys, and I'm trying to figure out if that slip is portside tie or starboard. And then comes docking, lining up the approach, dealing with wind and current, trying not to scrape your hull or someone else's pride and joy. There's no one to jump off and grab a cleat, so you're often hopping off mid-glide or looping lines from the cockpit with one arm while fending off with your foot. And of course, there's always a crowd watching. No pressure, right? I've learned to take it slow, plan every move, and if things go sideways, laugh it off. But man, those harbor moments can turn your calm cruising day into a stress test real fast. It's all part of the solo package, but it never really gets easy. Anchoring is one of those things that seems straightforward until you're doing it solo in tough conditions. Strong currents or gusty winds can turn a simple task into a stressful rodeo. You've got to position the boat, drop the anchor, pay out enough chain, and make sure it's set properly, all without anyone at the helm while you're up on the bow. I've had times where I'd start to drop the hook, only for the current to swing me sideways or the wind to push me dangerously close to another boat. It's nerve-wracking. There's a dance to it, going back and forth from the cockpit to the bow, trying to keep control while watching depth and scope. And if it doesn't set right the first time, you're doing the whole thing over again. In bad weather, it's physically exhausting too. I've come out of some anchor drills soaked in sweat, arms shaking, heart pounding. You develop a system, sure, but even with experience, anchoring in tricky conditions can still surprise you. It's one of those moments where you wish for an extra pair of hands, or at least someone to confirm you're not just imagining the madness. Why? Handling sails solo is like a choreographed routine. You've got to know every step, and there's no one to bail you out if you mess up. Hoisting, trimming, reefing, furling, it's all on you, and when conditions are calm, it's manageable. But when the wind picks up or you're dealing with tight quarters, it can turn chaotic fast. I remember one gusty afternoon where a jammed jib sheet turned into a full-blown wrestling match with me on deck, lines flying, trying to avoid getting smacked in the face by the flogging sail. You learn real quick to set things up right the first time. Clutches open, halyards clear, winches ready. Mistakes get costly fast, and there's no one to hold the tiller while you untangle a line. Reefing under pressure is another beast, hanging on with one hand while you try to pull down a stubborn sail with the other. It teaches you patience, precision, and a kind of grace under pressure. But it also reminds you just how physical sailing is when there's no crew to share the load. Every task takes more time, more energy, and sometimes more swear words than you'd like to admit. You'd think with all the physical work on board, staying healthy would be easy, but that's not always the case. When you're solo, you don't have someone reminding you to eat or saying, hey, maybe we should cook something nutritious tonight. It's really easy to fall into bad habits, skipping meals, snacking on junk, or living off instant noodles for days on end. I've had passages where I realized at sunset that all I'd had was coffee and a granola bar. And when you're tired or stressed, you're way more likely to reach for the easiest thing, which usually isn't the healthiest. Cooking takes energy and time, two things that can feel scarce after a long day. Add in limited fridge space and a rocking galley, and even making a sandwich can feel like a chore. Then there's staying fit. Sure, sailing is physical, but it's also a lot of sitting, watching, waiting. I've had to come up with little routines, stretching on deck, doing squats by the mast, making sure I drink enough water. It's not glamorous, but it makes a big difference. Staying healthy out here is about discipline, not convenience. And when you're solo, there's no one else to hold you accountable. Weather is always a factor at sea, but when you're sailing solo, even a minor squall can feel like a full-blown crisis. You're the navigator, the helm, the deckhand, and the weatherman, all rolled into one. When things turn quickly, there's no one to take over while you reef the mainsail or double-check your course. I've had moments where the sky went from blue to black in minutes, and I was scrambling to drop sail, secure loose gear, and brace myself, all while keeping an eye on nearby traffic or shallows. You learn to be proactive, to reef early, and trust your gut, because reacting late can cost you dearly. And then there's the emotional part, fear. It hits harder when you're alone. There's no one to say, "We've got this." You're talking yourself through it while gripping the wheel with white knuckles. And after it passes, you're still the one cleaning up the mess, drying things out, and figuring out what broke. Weather keeps you humble. No matter how prepared you are, it has a way of finding your weak spots. But getting through it, alone, that builds a quiet kind of confidence nothing else can match. Long passages are where the real mental battles begin. Days on end with no land in sight, no new voices, just the endless rhythm of the sea. It can be meditative, sure, but it can also mess with your head. When the novelty wears off, you're left with monotony, and keeping your spirits up becomes a real task. You've got to create little routines, tiny victories to break up the day. A good cup of coffee, a chapter from a book, a moment of music. I've had passages where I'd talk out loud to myself just to feel some sort of conversation, or I'd fixate on reaching the next degree of longitude like it was a finish line. And when things go wrong out there, when the wind dies or gear breaks, it's easy to spiral. There's no one to share the burden, no one to lighten the mood. You're your own cheerleader, taskmaster, and therapist. And you start asking yourself, why am I doing this? What's the point? But then you get a sunrise that takes your breath away, or dolphins swim alongside at dusk, and suddenly it all clicks back into place. You remember the magic, but staying motivated, that's an everyday fight. So there you have it, 10 unexpected challenges that come with solo sailing. It's not always sunsets and smooth seas. Sometimes it's sweaty, stressful, and just plain lonely. But here's the thing, every challenge teaches you something. You get stronger, smarter, and more in tune with yourself and the sea. And in those quiet, hard-earned moments of calm, it's all worth it. Thanks for being here with me. If you've faced any of these yourself, or if you're thinking about going solo, drop a comment and let's talk about it. Until next time, fair winds and following seas.